So my friend Mark and I were able to save this section of my old layout. It's the only section I saved that was, intact with track, and it's a really nice piece of track work, and I don't want to waste it, so I'm going to try to reuse it in the new layout. The only issue is I'm trying to keep the bench work about 18 inches deep, and this is 16 inches deep at its widest. Overall, the length is fine. It's almost 7 feet, so 6'10". But at 18 inches, I could fit 16, but I need to fit in a mainline track in addition to this, and I also need to fit in a upper section that's probably going to be about 2 inches high towards the back of this section. That'll have a retaining wall and then some other street or track work, so I could add an elevated subway section to a portion of the layout. So what does that mean? I'm not sure, but I think, and I was talking to my friend Jason about this last night, I've got 4 tracks here, which is not a lot of yard, but it's still something. And then I've got this track here, which I could keep as the main line, and I just have to chop this off. And then I'd have about a 10-inch section, which would leave me 8 inches for some stuff in the back and a little bit more room in the front, because I don't want this to be the whole scene. It's just too crowded with yard. I'm going to do the bench work out of plywood. I decided not to use 1x4 anymore because it's never straight. It always warps. I got to get some plywood, so let's do that next. So I'm thinking about the new layout a lot, and what it's going to look like compared to the old one. And the biggest thing I'm hoping for is that you learn from your mistakes from the last one. And but at the same time, I know I'm going to be making new mistakes, so that's okay too. Just means I'm learning some more, but I'm hoping to make less of them. I'm not planning too much of this layout as far as a track plan and so forth. Like, I'm building this section to start with, and hopefully it works out. But again, it's all changeable and easy to fix. We're always talking about just wood and paint and glue. It's nothing like permanent. But more than anything, I want to keep it simpler than the last layout. I made it too complicated and too uncomfortable to work with and work on, and given the space it was in. So this, I'm hoping for an easier process, which of course will just make it more enjoyable. And if it's more enjoyable, I'll get more done. I'll be more motivated to work on it. I know I've seen a lot of bench work where people drill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes across a piece of wood like this, but it's only 18 inches. If I'm running wire through the whole center of the bench work, this is not too far to go, and it's not worth to me drilling all those holes. I know it won't take a lot of time, but it will take some time. So I think the one hole is going to do it. The only holes I will have to drill at the end of each section would be to bolt each section of bench work together once the next section is finished. So, but I can do that after the fact and decide how that's going to get connected. And I went with 3.5 inch, just like a 1x4. I was going to go 3, but I might as well keep it uniform in case I do mix and match some lumber in there. So 3.5 is fine. Plywood is so strong. I mean, it's overkill for this kind of bench work. Nothing is going to deflect or bend this in any way, especially once it's all screwed together. So then I have to decide, am I going to use wood glue or not? Probably not. It's really unnecessary. Again, this is going to be so strong with just 2 screws in each end of the cross member here. And once it's all together, everything's going to be solid. So not too concerned about that. Since I am doing a new layout, of course, I had to consider the fact that I might not do, or might not model the 1970s again in New York. That only lasted for a few seconds. I changed my mind back pretty quickly, but of course, most modelers want to model everything. I would like to model the 1950s with some steam and diesel on the New Haven. I'd like to model present-day Amtrak. But in the end, you have to pick one if you've got limited space and time. So I've already invested so much in rolling stock, and some of them are weathered with graffiti. That's really for the 1970s. So I really can't stray too far from what I've already been modeling, unless I want to start from scratch, which I don't. So I'm going to stick with the 1970s in New York. It's just, I'm hoping really to, as I've said earlier, to simplify it and keep the track plan simple. In the end, I just want to run some trains in front of some nice models. I don't need a ton of operation. There will be sidings, and there will be the yard. There'll be a waterfront scene, and whatever else we come up with along the way. But I'm going to try to keep it really, really simple. Okay, so here is this old section of yard on this new benchwork that I just built. And it's clearly too big, as I mentioned earlier, so I think the best thing to do is to keep tracks 1, 2, and 3, cut it here. Like I said, I could use this as the mainline track, but it really needs to distinguish itself as mainline track.
and it looks like just some old yard track here. So I'm gonna have to cut this off, and then we'll put a main track here. Then I can shift this kind of almost to the middle, and I can build up a section in the back of the layout that will be about 2 inches high to have a separate street section or elevated subway section in the back. And then I have this whole other half, which I could probably reuse somewhere else in the layout. So basically I just need to cut all the way down this line, all the way to the end, and then we'll have what we need.
Okay, so now we've got these two sections. For a moment there, I thought I cut the wrong, I was in the wrong position, but this is right. So I'm not getting that much yard out of this, but I am adding the main line. So what's good is this is a nice piece. This is a nice piece. I could probably use this somewhere else in the layout, maybe even the next section since it matches. So now I've got 3 tracks. And I have to figure out which way. I have to figure out which way is the back of the layout and what's the front. Let's see. Coming around the room. I want to come to the yard. It's probably this way. I think I need to clean up some of these edges on the bandsaw a little bit on the other side. So I'll be right back. So we have our bench work done for this section. You can see how much space we have now. I've got at least 2 to 4 inches in the back, which is plenty of room for a second level to get a second section of track up here or a street. I'm still not sure how that's going to go. And then the front, I've got enough for a main line track here, and then a little bit more room for either some structures in a road or some waterfront or a little of both. So it's not going to be overwhelmed by yard tracks. It's just 3. That's just enough. I don't need any more than that. And eventually I'll have to get some masonite the next video. We'll skin this with some masonite and then start working in some foam and landforms to really flesh out what's going on here. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I'm going to keep going, and I like the idea of doing these sections here in my workshop first instead of building a room in the basement filled with bench work that will be empty for a long time. I know that's how a lot of people do it, and that's good, but I think I like treating it like a diorama because that's what I'm used to. I can get this thing completed or close to completion right here in the workshop and then set it up in the basement and then get to the next section and go on from there. And at the same time having satisfaction of completing an entire scene. So thanks for watching. Take a look at our website, fosskits.com. We've got over 100 HO scale kits that you might like and could use for your layout. And check us out on Patreon. Thank you to our Patreon supporters. You can check out new posts there during the week about what we're working on in the shop with new kits and now this new layout and a bunch of other perks that we keep putting up there. So check us out there, and thanks. I'll see you next time.